The first message arrived at exactly 8 o'clock station time. Every student terminal chimed at once, and the lecture hall filled with a soft cascade of translated notifications. Normally, no one paid attention to administrative updates. This one froze the room. Human exchange students are now permitted to bring companion organisms into educational spaces. Silence followed. Zxylorp blinked both eyelids, then the inner membrane. He reread the message twice, then a third time, slower. Companion organisms. Across the amphitheater, a scaled Grotty student fainted directly out of his chair. Another began rapidly shedding stress scales across the desk surface. The human section, however, reacted differently. They smiled. One of them, Todd, casually closed the message and stretched like nothing important had happened. Professor Lurek's antennae stiffened. "Clarification," he said carefully, voice translator trembling. "Humans, what qualifies as a companion organism?" Todd raised his hand politely. "Pets." The translation field hesitated before broadcasting the meaning across 600 languages. 3 students screamed. A Kethery emergency alarm discharged defensive ink. Someone attempted to crawl into a ventilation duct. Zxylorp felt cold from the inside out. The human database described Earth as a death world. Excessive gravity, unstable climate cycles, microbial aggression, apex predators in every ecosystem layer. And they kept animals voluntarily. The door opened. The first human entered carrying a creature with exposed teeth. It panted happily, tongue out, eyes bright with predatory focus. Its claws clicked against the floor with rhythmic confidence. Half the class dove behind desks. Todd scratched the animal's head. "This is Rex. He's friendly." The translator struggled with the concept of friendly predator and produced 3 contradictory definitions simultaneously. Professor Lurek clung to the podium. "It is displaying hunting respiration." "He's excited," Todd said. The animal noticed Zxylorp trembling and walked closer. Every instinct screamed to flee. The creature's gaze locked onto him with impossible attention. This was pursuit behavior, tracking behavior. Instead, it sat down. Its tail began striking the floor in steady, harmless thumps. Todd gently took Zxylorp's upper limb and placed it onto the creature's head.
Warm. Soft.
No attack. The classroom held absolute silence. Rex leaned into the touch and closed his eyes in visible contentment. Zxylorp realized something impossible. The predator was trusting him. And somehow, that was more terrifying than teeth. And O1 moved for nearly 10 seconds after the contact. Then the room erupted. Half the class began recording. 3 medical drones descended from the ceiling, scanning Zxylorp for venom, infection, or neurological compromise. One student loudly recited ancestral farewell rites. Zxylorp slowly pulled his limb away. It remained attached. The creature, Rex, wagged harder, pleased with the interaction as if a ritual had been successfully completed. Todd smiled.
"See?
He likes you." Professor Lurek struggled to regain authority. "Humans, return your organisms to containment carriers immediately. This environment is not rated for active predators." A second human raised a small transparent box. Inside, a long limbless creature rested coiled in calm stillness. The class screamed louder than before. "It's just a snake," she said reassuringly. The translator refused to soften the word. 2 desks overturned. The emergency bulkhead sealed one exit as students attempted coordinated escape. The ink cloud from earlier triggered an atmospheric scrubber cycle, causing wind turbulence across the lecture hall. Through all of this, the animals behaved peacefully. The snake flicked its tongue, uninterested in chaos. Rex
Welcome to our
sat beside
symposium
Todd,
on primal
tail sweeping
synergy.
methodically,
These images evoke our
occasionally
deep
looking toward
connection
Zxylorp
with nature's
hopeful
power.
expectation.
Together,
Observe,
we explore
Todd
how
said
this
gently.
bond can shape
They're
our
reacting to
future.
reacting. They read emotion. Professor Lurek froze. Clarified. Predators don't just hunt, Todd explained. Some evolve to bond. Cooperation beats survival alone on our world. Another human released a small furred creature from a shoulder harness. It climbed onto her head and stared down at the class with curious intelligence. Companion species, she continued. We protect them, they protect us. Mutual trust. The translation struggled with the word trust again. Zxylorp found himself watching Rex instead of hiding from it. The creature wasn't studying weak points. It wasn't preparing an attack vector. It was waiting for approval. Slowly, cautiously, Zxylorp extended his limb again. The classroom collectively held its breath. Rex leaned forward and gently pressed his head against him. The movement carried no dominance, no territorial assertion, only invitation. The realization spread across the hall in uneasy silence. These Death World predators were not controlled. They were choosing restraint. Professor Lurek lowered his defensive frill. Continue the demonstration, he said quietly. For the first time in recorded university history, a xenobiology lecture stopped being about survival theory and became about friendship. The incident should have triggered a full institutional lockdown. Instead, by mid-cycle, the recordings had propagated across the university network. Every corridor screen replayed the same impossible moment, a Death World predator calmly resting its head against a trembling alien student. The University Emergency Council met for exactly 4 minutes before issuing a temporary amendment: companion organisms permitted outside classrooms under supervision. No one expected what happened next. Students began approaching the humans, carefully at first, then in clusters. Rex became the center of a widening circle in the central courtyard. Todd sat on the ground while a dozen species observed from varying safe distances marked by hastily deployed hazard tape. The predator simply rolled onto its back, exposing vital organs in a gesture no sensible creature should ever display. What does that posture indicate? A Varelian asked from atop a lamppost. Trust, Todd replied. The word translated correctly this time. Zxylorp watched as a shelled aquatic delegate slowly extended a limb and touched the creature's abdomen. Rex responded by wagging so hard his entire body shook, producing delighted vocalizations. No attack followed. More students stepped closer. Nearby, another human demonstrated a game called Fetch. A small object was thrown across the grass. Rex sprinted after it with explosive acceleration that caused half the observers to scatter instinctively. Instead of continuing the pursuit, the predator returned and placed the object gently into Todd's hand. The courtyard filled with confused murmurs. It retrieved the projectile, Professor Lurek noted, recording rapidly, without compulsion. It likes the game, Todd said. Across the plaza, the snake demonstration drew a different audience, primarily scientific staff shielded behind portable barriers. The animal coiled peacefully around its handler's arm while biometric monitors confirmed 0 aggression markers. The narrative of predators as uncontrollable forces began fracturing. By the next cycle, students were bringing nutrient offerings appropriate to Earth species. Water dishes appeared near benches. Shaded rest areas were constructed. The maintenance drones adjusted cleaning schedules around walking routes labeled pet paths. Zxylorp found himself sitting beside Rex voluntarily. He had stopped calculating escape routes. When Rex leaned into him again, he didn't freeze. He rested his limb along the creature's neck ridge, feeling steady breathing and warm biological rhythm. Around them, conversations replaced alarms. The university was no longer studying Deathworlders. It was learning how they lived. And for many species, that realization was far more disruptive than fear ever was. By the end of the week, the university no longer resembled a neutral interstellar campus. It felt alive in a different way. Where there had once been sterile walkways and cautious distance between species, there were now gathering circles on the lawns. Humans sat openly with their companion organisms resting beside them. Alien students, once horrified, now approached without prompting. The shift was subtle, but undeniable. Professor Lurek called for a formal symposium to address what administration labeled the Deathworlder companion phenomenon. The auditorium filled beyond capacity. This time, no one hid near exits. Zxylorp sat in the front row. Rex lay at his side. The sight would have caused panic cycles earlier in the week. Now, it caused whispers of curiosity instead. Todd stepped onto the stage. No podium shield. No containment barrier. On Earth, he began, survival is hard. Predators exist everywhere. Weather kills. Microbes kill. The planet itself tries to kill you. Several species shifted uncomfortably. So we learned something early, Todd continued. Strength isn't just about teeth. It's about bonds. Behind him, images projected. Ancient humans beside wolves, farmers beside oxen, children holding small animals with expressions of trust. We didn't conquer our predators, Todd said. Some of them chose to stand with us. The auditorium remained silent. Zxylorp looked down at Rex. The creature had fallen asleep, completely vulnerable in a hall full of unfamiliar species. A predator sleeping among potential prey. That was not dominance. That was faith. Professor Lurek addressed the assembly. Our models classify Deathworld organisms as apex threats. Yet what we observe contradicts that assumption. These humans demonstrate voluntary interspecies cooperation with former predators. A murmur of contemplation spread. Zxylorp slowly raised his limb. I was afraid, he admitted, voice steady through the translator. I believed their creatures existed only to destroy. But this one, he rested his hand against Rex's shoulder, chooses gentleness. Rex stirred, then pressed closer without opening his eyes. A quiet sound filled the hall. Not alarm, not panic, but something softer. Understanding. By unanimous vote, the university ratified a new cultural exchange initiative, Companion Integration Studies. What began as horror had become research. What began as fear had become connection. As the symposium ended, dozens of species approached the humans, not to protest, but to ask questions. Outside, in the courtyard where chaos once erupted, Zxylorp walked beside Rex under twin suns. For the first time, he understood something about Deathworlders. They survived not because their world was brutal. They survived because, in the harshest place imaginable, they chose loyalty. And somehow that was stronger than fear.